For more on this, we want to bring in Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. He's a member of the House Oversight and Financial Services Committees. Congressman, good to see you. I want to talk about your work on the Oversight Committee. You guys have just started your investigations into this. You're having some hearings. You're going through the evidence. Out of the testimony and evidence you've looked through so far, what's jumping off the page to you so far?
Well, I mean, look, right now we're just getting started. I know the first batch of letters that went out, those members of the Biden administration did not want to come in and sit for a transcribed interview. So in my view, we need to just go ahead and subpoena them. Let's not play games. The statement that was just released by President Biden, let's just be perfectly honest, he didn't write that statement because the American people know that he hasn't been able to have a coherent statement towards the American people in well over 2 years. This is, again, them covering up. We already know that he was an elderly gentleman with a faulty memory. That came out of the special counsel's report, and that was almost 2 years ago. And so we need to get to the bottom of this. You cannot have White House officials using the president's signature without the president's knowledge. And that is the core of our investigation. We are going to go look for every piece of evidence going down through that view, and then we'll see where we end up after that. But as far as I'm concerned, whether it's Anita Dunn, White House counsels, White House chief of staff, the White House doctor, they need to be subpoenaed. They got to come in and answer questions.
Yep, so you guys have given them a June 11th deadline to respond. Sounds like you're not confident any of them want to do that, so you'll have to go down the subpoena road. In the meantime, we saw a little bit from your committee's hearing yesterday when it comes to the president's competency while in office. We know that Chairman Comer is going to go full steam ahead, try to get some information about what these aides knew in the White House. But here's a take from a legacy media outlet about all that. Take a listen.
So just to look at the investigation so far, so you see on your screen into Biden allegations of political interference alleged into the Hunter Biden case, the cover-up of Biden's mental fitness, the alleged cover-up, that's what they're looking at, the use of the auto pen, particularly on executive orders. What do you make of this effort?
Well, the other key difference from when Comer was trying to rally votes around impeachment and now is that Joe Biden is no longer president of the United States. So it's a very backward-looking exercise.
And then we had this framing by another outlet in a recent headline, quote, GOP senators plan hearing on Biden's perceived cognitive decline. Does that surprise you, hearing that language there, that the cognitive decline is just perceived? It may not even be a thing?
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is why the legacy media has no credibility with the American people. We all saw with our own eyes that Joe Biden was mentally not with us and not mentally capable of discharging his duties as of the commander-in-chief. We all know this. And so for the press to now say, oh, looking back doesn't mean anything, that is not true. It does. We cannot have a president of the United States that is essentially being run by his staff. I will assure you that is not happening in the Trump administration. Donald Trump is in charge. He's making the decisions. He points where we're going, and the members of his team make sure that they execute. But what is not clear by any shadow of a doubt is that Joe Biden was actually directing cabinet officials. He was directing White House staff. What it more looks like what was going on is that they basically hid him from the American people while they were making all the decisions, and none of them were elected to discharge the duties of the presidency. That's what's wrong. That's what we're going to investigate. And if the media wants to continue to leave their heads in the stands, well, guess what? They'll lose the rest of the credibility that they have, but they don't have much left at all.
Yeah, and you heard the guy on the other network saying that this is a backwards-looking investigation. They didn't seem to have a whole lot of issue with that during Trump's first term when they were looking at everything with the Russia probe. Do want to talk to you about some more international news. Israel announcing, unfortunately, it has recovered the bodies of 2 Israeli-American hostages during a special operation. Sad update here. The IDF saying terrorists killed the husband and wife, ages 72 and 70, during the initial attack on October 7th by Hamas, and they held their bodies in Gaza ever since then. Officials believe Hamas is still holding 56 hostages, 33 of them, though, already confirmed to be dead. In the meantime, in the wake of Sunday's anti-Semitic terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, President Trump now reviving his travel ban on a dozen countries. It prohibits the U.S. entry of nationals from, quote, very high-risk nations. These include Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia, Libya, and Yemen. The administration cites terrorist activity, hostile governments, and high visa overstay rates. Here's the president.
The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed. The list is subject to revision based on whether material improvements are made, and likewise, new countries can be added as threats emerge around the world. But we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe.
Congressman, I'm sure someone somewhere out there is going to sue over this, but we do have SCOTUS president from Trump's first term. His first travel ban was upheld. If they face a lawsuit this time around, do you see that precedent being used here to keep this one upheld?
I do. And listen, we have to thank the President of the United States for doing the job that a president is supposed to do, and that is protecting the American people. He is doing that. Meanwhile, the previous administration, led by somebody, maybe the auto pen, was not doing that. They left our country open to more than 184 countries. Those countries on that list are a part of that. And we have seen the devastation here in the United States with young girls losing their lives, what happened in Boulder, Colorado. Enough is enough. Donald Trump is going to secure this nation. This travel ban will be upheld. We have to put the American people first, and Donald Trump is doing it.
Final topic I want to get to you on. One of your Republican colleagues introduced a resolution yesterday which would essentially put Democrats on record with their votes. That resolution, quote, condemns anti-Semitism in all its forms and expresses grave concern about the rise in anti-Semitic behavior and actions reported all across college campuses, online, and in other public spaces. It also urges Congress to take immediate action to secure the border and deport every migrant who overstays their visa. Congressman, that last part there, when it comes to those mass deportations, with as much as Democrats are bashing ICE these days, are you confident they're going to sign on to that resolution?
No, I think you'll have a lot of Democrats who will vote against it. Before you even get to the immigration piece, they'll be against it because of the desire by the House to stand firmly against anti-Semitism. But that's their party, and that's their problem. They are a party that does not stand behind the will of the American people, making sure people are not disparaged or victimized, and wanting to make sure that our borders are secured and our people are safe. That's not their policy. That's not their party. So I commend Representative Fine, a colleague of mine from Florida. He's doing a great job. Commend him for bringing this resolution forward. We should put it on the House floor immediately and see where the Democrats are.
Yep, and that's the great thing about voting. You get to see their record, exactly how they vote. Congressman Byron Donalds, great to see you. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.